doing some fall container pots, both for the indoors for centerpiece displays or just decorating and getting some plant life into the house for the fall. And then also some outdoor containers that can be multi-purposed throughout the fall, possibly the winter, depending on where you're located, and have some spring surprises in them also. First one we're going to do is kind of a long window box. Of course, you could get creative and use any container that you have, old baskets or anything in the house, even a platter or a tray that might be decorative with the fall season. So what I want to do with this one is kind of keep it a little low because it's going to be for a longer table on during dinner or as a display. So we don't want to get too much height because if it's left on the table, you want to be able to see your guests that you'll be entertaining. This one does have a hole in the bottom, so I put just some general stones and things like that. Probably for an indoor, if it's only going to be for the fall season, you could probably leave no drainage in there. Get a container that's solid, yet you have to watch your watering, because once you start to overwater some of these plants, they will not survive. But if it is going to be something that you put some house plants type things in, like we're going to use today, then I would make sure you do have that drainage, and then whatever surface you put it on, protect it with one of those plastic liners or something else that will keep that water from damaging the surface you put it on. I have a general potting mix and mixed it in with some regular soil and a little bit of compost so that you get the good nutrients in there. One about a couple of inches deep because I don't know, I have varying depths and weights of my plant material. So we're going to have to be careful with how deep we plant everything and add some soil as we go. Now I only filled this one about a couple of inches deep because I don't know, I have varying depths and weights of my plant material. So we're going to have to be careful with how deep we plant everything and add some soil as we go. Okay, now alright, now we're back and ready to kind of do a neat little floral display, but with houseplants that have some fall colors. And then also some of your fall season plants to add blooms. The objective is to kind of get a variety of things, and again I wanted to stay a little low with this one. Maybe a little bit of height depending on where it's going to be displayed. This is just some general. The cool thing about doing this in the fall is a lot of these plants that I'm using, when I went to the garden center or your home improvement store, they had these on sale. I'm just getting out a few of the little weeds right here and rustling up those roots at the bottom to make sure it's going to start rooting in very nicely. You could do from one end to the other, or a center display that then tapers down, or you could kind of have some gradual working up in height. Really just depends on what you're looking for in your display. I'm going to do, center down and have some things that are going to taper off the sides. Another cool thing is always clean up your plants because they will grow. So if there's some things that are, the leaves are not as neat and tidy, you can just kind of prune those off either by hand or with a little pair of snips. It'll work. Also, this will rejuvenate the plant a bit and say, hey, let's grow some more fun stuff in there. The next I'm going to do is I'm going to do my ends. And I want to use, this is actually an outdoor succulent, it's sedum, and it can be transplanted out into the garden but it also would do fine in the house because of being at houseplant temperatures. Yet again, it does survive in the outside, so if you want to transplant it, you certainly could. So just let that trail on the end. Again, if there's one or two that are a little longer than you like, just kind of prune those off as you feel fit. Again, adding soil as I go. Some of these on the ends might want to be lifted up a little bit just because it's going to be at the edge of the pot and you want them to cascade over. Okay. Now some of the other fun things that I found, just for $1.50 and that a piece are some of the cacti succulents. They have some great, neat displays at the stores. And then also, I even grabbed, these were 50-cent annuals. This one is called Purple Queen. It's a trailing annual. But again, since it's going to be indoors, I don't have to worry about it having the trouble with the inside temperatures will be perfect, and we won't have to worry about frost because it's not going. But isn't that a cool color? It's just really, really neat to find things like this. And again, it was very inexpensive. And again, I'm going to kind of do one of these on either end of the plant, or of our pot, just to add some color. Actually, I think since that one's so big, I'm going to pause and leave that one out and kind of put this in. I'm going to swap these out. I like that display a little bit better. That's the fun thing about container gardening, is you can just play around with it and use it and develop them as you kind of go. And then this will trail both directions. Then let's get in and adding some of these succulents. I'm going to fill the pot the rest of the way so I can get these succulents in here. One thing with these, the succulents and things like that, you treat as a normal house plant. You can do a little bit of fertilizing, but I wouldn't do too awful much. Biggest thing is sunlight. They do like to still get that warm sun, so if you can get it into some indirect sun, because you don't want to burn it with the windows, but indirect sun would be very good exposure for any of these plants. Again, kind of tapering off a little height here and there. Going to plant some fun cacti in here, varying back and forth. The one neat thing too is, depending on your container, again, like I said, get creative, because you want to use even a nice decorative platter or anything that sort. And like I said, even though there's a lot of green here, you can still get these autumnal colors, and of course you can add in any and all colors that you find. Again, also too, if your succulent breaks off, if you're really handy and want to try it, if you put these in a starter soil, like a seed starter, you might get some new plants out of them. So you can save those. Also, it's a great thing if you have kids or grandkids. They always love to get creative with planting indoors. I know mine are usually jealous when I'm doing these kind of things and they're not helping that way. Again, another nice bit of color that you can add to this. Kind of it's becoming a succulent garden, but why don't we bring in some color? And of course, you can always bring in the fall, it's always a nice one to bring in some pansies. And it would give you some neat color to add to give you that flower aspect. You could also do some chrysanthemums. Those are always found in the late fall. And then also, like I have here, this is just some straw flower. If you find them small enough, you can even, add that for a punch of color. to bring in indoors. Also, again, because it's an annual, it'll last fine throughout your holiday season into Thanksgiving if you want. Now the fun thing is you can top this off, because you know most people are like, oh my goodness, dirt on my table. Well, why not put some, you can put some moss, sphagnum moss on there. You could do a little bit of stone, just plant it, put it right around the plants to cover up the soil. Even those glass beads and things like that. Depending on what your color scheme may be, it can vary with that. Also, putting a nice piece of fabric or ribbon around the outside of your pot that matches would be quite delightful to add some interest to the. But again, we have varying things. You can even get some euonymus that would bring in a little bit of red as a cascading thing. So it's all up to you, but you can get creative with both annuals, indoor plants, and perennials, even for an indoor container garden. So I hope that helps. This is one that we will take some pictures of as it grows, but it gives you a nice little display. And once I get it finished and put onto the table, we'll give you a shot on my website, jodycook.com.